Hey guys, BJ Kissel with a quick recap of the Kansas City Chiefs press conference in which they introduced Andy Reid as the new head coach in Kansas City. A few things that were said at the press conference that really stood out to me. The first being Andy Reid talking about Clark Hunt's recruitment of him when Clark Hunt and company flew out to Philadelphia to meet with Andy Reid and his family. That being that the meeting was originally supposed to last just 3 hours, ended up going 9 hours. Reid said it could have gone on even longer. Really stood out to me. I thought it was very interesting that Clark Hunt said that there were candidates and interviews lined up after Reid, but after meeting with him, they knew that they had found their guy. Andy Reid saying that after he met with Clark Hunt that, it just felt right, and he was hoping that he would be offered the job. So obviously that's got to be good news to Chiefs fans that it seemed to fit right off the bat. And Andy Reid was also very complimentary of the Hunt family in general, saying that there are just certain NFL families that you know, and the Hunts are at the top. That really struck a chord with me. It was also interesting to hear Andy Reid use phrases like sea of red when referring to Kansas City Chiefs fans that he described as phenomenal. Obviously somebody who's been in the NFL as long as Andy Reid, when he says something complimentary about your fan base, which he probably, for all intents and purposes, to be honest, he probably would have said anyway, but it's still nice to hear him say that and acknowledge a fan base that, that provided Arrowhead Stadium one of the most intimidating places to play in the NFL in years past, and that's kind of gone away over the last few years, and hopefully Andy Reid can get it back, and he's aware of what it used to be, and hopefully he can get us back there really soon. When talking specifics about the team, he didn't give a lot of insight into what they're going to do. There were questions about, the defensive scheme, which I know Chiefs fans have been talking about since his hiring, on whether they were going to run a 3-4 or a 4-3 defense. Reid did say that he's always ran a 4-3, but he understands the personnel here right now is to run a 3-4, and that he would take a look at that. He wasn't really committing to either one, but he seemed open to the idea of either. And it was also interesting how he talked about the Chiefs getting the #1 overall draft pick, using the phrase "blessed with the #1 overall pick," which kind of goes against what a lot of people have been saying, in that this is the worst year to have the #1 overall pick because there's no slam dunk, Andrew Luck type pick like there was last year. But I kind of disagree. I think that, there are a lot of good players in this draft. And if you pick the right one, then it's not the wrong time to have the #1 overall pick. It might not be as easy as it was last year, but there's still good players out there, and you just got to find the right ones that'll help your football team. And I thought it was also interesting how he talked about the quarterback situation in Kansas City, saying that he would start by evaluating the guys that are here right now. I don't think it's going to take very long, but it was probably the answer that you should have expected. It was also interesting that he said that Clark Hunt would hire the next general manager, that he would obviously sit in on the interviews, but that Clark Hunt would ultimately make the decision. I think it goes against some reports out there that the Chiefs' next head coach, or Andy Reid himself, would get to handpick his own GM. Obviously, he's going to have a say, but he did refer to Clark Hunt as the one who's going to make that decision. But in general, the press conference, I think that Andy Reid was very genuine in his answers about Kansas City. I think he's genuinely excited to be the head coach in Kansas City, and you could tell that Clark Hunt was very excited to introduce him as the next head coach in Kansas City. So obviously that's all good news for Chiefs fans. I think, Operation Restore Hope to Kansas City, I think this was step one, and I think that this was a slam dunk. I think that, when you go out and get the best head coach on the market that's available to your team, that's a good start. So for Arrowhead Pride and SB Nation, I'm BJ Kissel.